Hey, I'm Alicia Newcomb, and this is Assembly Guide, your guide to assembling and organizing as we work to make change in our theatrical industry. Hello! Thanks for coming back to Assembly Guide. I'm really happy you're here today. This is episode 3. Wow, 3 episodes. That's pretty cool. Thanks for being here. Today, I want to talk about some feelings, about the feelings that come up within us when we think about advocating for change, whether that's in the world or in theatrical spaces. I think that is often, if not almost always, pretty scary. And in my last episode, towards the end of the episode, I touched on being important to remember that we're gonna feel fear when we speak up, and to remember that that's totally normal, and to make sure that we don't let that fear drive our decision making, but that we just let it exist, that we acknowledge that it's there, but that we're not waiting for that fear to subside before we decide that we're going to speak up or use our voice or move forward. And I just want to go a little bit deeper into that today, because that is so much easier said than done. Am I right? I do believe that we've all likely been in situations where we have felt the urge to speak up. We've recognized something's wrong. We've maybe wanted to say something, but we've just felt like we can't. I don't think anyone does that effortlessly right away. So I think we've all been in a situation where we've seen something happen, or we've heard that something has been happening from someone else, or we know what's happening from our own experience, and we've wanted to say something, but we just haven't been able to. And I really think that is because of fear. So first, I want to say fear is totally and completely normal. What you're feeling is very valid. It is really hard to be the one to raise your hand and to speak up, or to speak up even after the fact that something happened that was wrong, or that something that was done caused someone harm or caused yourself harm. That's a really hard and scary thing to do. So if you feel that, I just want you to know that is totally and completely normal. I don't think anyone can not feel that. I think then we would be robots and not humans, and we're humans. So I just want to take a second to acknowledge that feeling is 100% normal, totally valid, and because that's totally normal, that is a part of speaking for change. So I think when we feel that, we want to acknowledge that that's likely not going to go away when we are choosing to speak up, when we're choosing to raise our hand or put ourselves forward. And so I think it's really helpful for us to be aware that we're going to feel afraid, and to not letting that fear go away be a prerequisite to being able to speak up. Excuse me. So I just kind of want to talk about the fears that we might feel to hopefully help normalize us recognizing that that's a totally normal feeling in this process. I'm going to speak on my own behalf, but I think these feelings are pretty universal. I think that, especially when I first started speaking up, I felt massive fear. I felt fear that I was going to be fired if I'm working a job and I say something's going wrong or something could be done better. I definitely tell myself stories in my brain that my employer or even coworkers or the creative team that I'm working with might be thinking, oh my gosh, she's so difficult. Or that they might think like, I do not want to work with this girl again. Like, she's always causing problems. Or I feel the feeling that, that might not then mean I get rehired if my contract ends and I'm up for contract renewal. Like, those are very scary feelings. So if you feel that, that's normal. Yay. And how do we, and do we, because that choice is up to you, engage with that? I want to go back again and recenter us on figuring out what's really important to us. What's really important to you? And I keep asking myself, what's really important to me? Because I think the thing that allows me to move through fear towards speaking up or towards action is when I can really lock in and center my focus on what I'm about. And if I see something that's clashing with that, it kind of feels like an obligation for me to step up and raise my hand or to talk to someone about it afterwards, just to bring to someone's attention that something happened and we need to make sure everyone's all right, or we need to find a way to move forward better next time, because it's most important to me that I'm in alignment with what I'm about as a human. And what I've decided I'm about as a human, as I have told you in past episodes, is centering on humanity and making sure everyone's humanity is seen and respected. So when I feel the fear that my boss or coworkers or anyone else I'm working with, or not even in a work scenario, but anyone else I'm around might feel like I'm being difficult or a problem or too much for bringing to their attention that there's an issue that needs to be resolved, I just center on the fact that I have to do this because not speaking up about this clashes with what I'm about as a human. And I say this knowing I don't do that perfectly all the time. And again, that's why mistakes are an important part of change and us having grace and compassion for ourselves and for other people, because no one's perfect and we're all going to miss opportunities to speak up. We're all going to make a mistake in how we speak up. We're all going to make a mistake in not speaking up and then having to own that we should have said something, but we didn't. And how do we go about handling that? But it's important to have grace and compassion for ourselves. But I think that when we center on what we're really about, that helps us move while we're still feeling the fear of being labeled as problematic or difficult to work with. And I also want to say, well, first, pause, please. Sorry. First, I want to acknowledge, again, my identity. I'm a white, cis, straight woman. So I am speaking with that identity, and I know that due to implicit bias and racism and so many other forms of fear and hatred, there are perceptions that aren't placed on me when I speak up that are placed on other people. So I can only speak to my own experience. Everyone's experience is valid, and your experience might be different than mine. And I want to say again, that's why with my identity, I do feel that I have an increased responsibility to speak up because people are less likely to place that label on me. And if we're in spaces where someone has spoken up, maybe with an identity that's different than our own, and we hear other people saying that that person is being difficult or that person is being a problem, it's also important that we speak up about that and maybe lend your voice to saying, hey, no, I kind of understand what this person might be feeling, and I want to support what they expressed and the need for change. And however you're able to lend your voice to that discussion is a good way to be helpful in that as well. Another thing that I want to focus on that I believe I was trying to say before I interrupted myself and lost my train of thought is surrounding on aligning with what we're about as people. And I can't define that for you, but I hope that you think about that yourself. I also think it's important to consider that if I raise my voice in this space when something is wrong, whatever space that may be, and do so as kindly as I can, and I am fired because of that, or not rehired because of that, of all, I got to give a shout out to my best friend. That's one of his favorite sayings. And I have since adopted it. A of all, that's retaliation. So an employer cannot do that because you have spoken up. So that would be something that there would be pathways and support for you to proceed if that action was taken. But B of all, do I really want to exist in a space where the people in power are not okay with me kindly bringing to their attention that something is wrong? By standing up for what I know is right, if I am fired for that, or if I'm not even working a job, but if someone sees me say that and decides they don't ever want to work with me again, they don't ever want to be in a space with me again, then it is extremely clear to me that that is not a type of space I want to be in or people that I want to surround myself with. Because I want to surround myself with people and places who support everyone's humanity, who are open to hearing that there's an issue that needs to be resolved, and who, even if they feel any uncomfortable feelings surrounding that, because that's a very difficult thing to hear for anyone, they are wanting to move through those feelings and to really listen and hear what's going on and to collectively figure out a way to move forward better together. So if I lose my access to that space or to those people for speaking up for what I know is right, I, deep in my core, believe that I am absolutely okay with that because that space or those people are not meant for me anyway. Oh, and I finally remembered actually where the train of thought was going from before. I think too that when we speak up and other people in spaces with us see us speaking up, it normalizes that it's okay to say that something's wrong. Yes, is it a difficult conversation? Usually, yes, it is. It's not necessarily always super easy where you say, hey, this needs to be fixed. And the person or the company goes, oh, okay, great, thanks. And they fix it and move on. So it's definitely always more complicated and a little bit more of a difficult conversation than that. But it doesn't have to be. And I think, again, as individuals, we should be trying to practice hearing that we might have harmed someone and listening to that and really thinking about it and choosing to move forward differently. So accepting that feedback almost as a gift because we don't want to be harming people. So the more that we bring that to other people's attention and we normalize that these type of conversations actually need to happen and are totally normal, the more they will begin to happen. In our industry, I'm speaking about right now as a performer, when we see people around us in spaces speaking up, that allows us to feel like we can do that too. And the more people that do that, the less we will have to fear losing our jobs or being someone that people label as difficult or bossy, because it will become more normalized to both say those things and to hear those things when we are the one causing other people harm. Because again, we all make mistakes and do things that we might not realize are causing other people harm. So if we can really rally together and all own our ability to use our voice in whatever way that it works best for you, then we're going to just create a better industry, a better world, to be honest. I'm going to do an episode later on how I personally have taken on crafting what I think is a successful argument or the most successful way to bring to someone's attention that there's a need for change. But I do want to touch on a few things right now because when we see an issue and we're going to raise our voice, we're going to feel scared. So I want to bring in a few tools that can help, especially in a moment of fear when you feel like you might not know what to do and you might feel really nervous to use your voice. I think always we want to speak with kindness and respect everyone's humanity. That's extremely difficult when you are in a situation where something is going wrong or something is causing you harm or other people harm. So for me, what helps is like taking a breath. And sometimes when I'm speaking, I'll even say, hey, I apologize if I sound emotional right now. I am having a hard time communicating this and doing the best I can. And I think that just allows people to acknowledge that you're feeling something, because again, we're humans. So to the best of our abilities, if we can take a breath, maybe even acknowledge that you're nervous in speaking, and then that we speak with kindness and we respect everyone's humanity. It is so difficult, and I catch myself having to remind myself of this all the time. But I think that when you bring something like this up, it goes better when we assume that everyone is doing the best they can with the information that they have. That is sometimes really hard to believe when you're in a situation where something is going wrong. But I think it's a crucial piece of moving forward constructively. When we assume, or we try our best in a moment to assume that everyone's doing the best they can with the information that they have, it allows me to think of that person or that system or that company and go, okay, if they're doing the best they can with all the information that they have, they clearly don't have an understanding of the full situation or the full picture of how what is going on affects everyone that's involved, because it's causing people harm. And if they knew that, they would try to change it. Or they might feel that I know something's wrong, but I don't know all of the components that go into the decision that's being made or the action that's being taken that is causing the harm. So it allows me to instead of just flatly accusing someone of doing something harmful, it allows me to go, hey, can we pause for a second? I think we need to have a conversation about the whole situation in this moment. Or if I'm speaking about it after the fact, hey, can we talk about this situation that happened? This was harmful to me, but I want to bring that to your attention because I know that that's not an effect that you want. So I think if we could get on the same page and have a better understanding of the situation together, we can figure out how to move forward together better. That allows me to use my words to focus on moving towards a solution together. So when I speak or when I write, I really try to say we and not you. So instead of saying you're not doing this, I try to say, hey, this situation is having this effect, and I know that we all want an environment where everyone is safe and supported. How can we move forward differently to make sure that that's happening? Focusing on we instead of you on the person or system that's causing the harm, I think helps it not to feel quite so difficult when they hear something being brought to their attention, because it feels like less of an attack and more like a let's work together to move forward in a collaborative way. Because it is a collaborative situation. If I had full power of the situation, I'd just change it, but I don't. So we have to collaborate. And how can we do that effectively to move forward together? When I speak about things that are harmful, I really try to focus on facts. I try to focus on actions and words. I don't want to make assumptions of the other person's intention. So I want to bring up again, hey, this situation or this policy has this effect on me. Or you said this and this is what the effect that it had on me. I don't want to assume your intention. Can we talk more about this? That is really helpful because it's not critiquing the person individually or their character. I'm really focusing on words and actions that have caused harm and then oftentimes I will try to remind that person or that company, hey, I've heard you speak before on how it's important to you that everyone is respected in the workplace. This policy doesn't feel like it supports that. So I just wanted to touch base and communicate that effect that it's having on me and how I don't feel respected. I know that's not your intention. I know you want everyone to feel respected. So I was wondering if we could have a conversation about this. Again, it tries to make change more approachable to people. And then another reminder is if you can't speak up in the moment, I have not been able to do that at all times. Again, we're human, we make mistakes. Another tool that could be available to you if that doesn't feel like that's quite approachable for you yet is speaking up after the fact. It might feel like we missed our moment to help support and protect ourselves or other people, but I don't think that we have that. There's always a need for that. So it might even give you space to take a second to step away from the situation and to think about who can I approach to try to resolve this? Organizing afterwards so that your voice is not alone, but rather you're in a group of voices. If something affects multiple people, can be a great tool where it feels less scary because you don't feel like you're being singled out as the one person who is bringing to someone's attention that there's an issue, but you're supported. Whoa, I'm tired, but you're supported by a chorus of voices around you. And again, we are stronger in numbers. Also, there might be resources available to you to allow you to bring to someone's attention a situation that happened anonymously. For example, I'm pretty positive, I don't want to misspeak, so I'm not going to say for sure, that our union, while it has as Actors Equity Association, sorry, I want to be clear. When I say our union, I'm speaking as a performer. So Actors Equity Association represents performers and stage managers. I'm pretty sure that our union, while we have direct reporting resources, we also, I think, have, and I'll double check on this, an anonymous reporting situation. And I work for a company, for example, and part of our training with that company is that they share with us the reporting resources that are available to us if something happens, so that you can also report anonymously if that will help you feel a little less in fear when you're speaking up about something. So, to wrap it all up, and who knows, I'll probably talk longer than that, but you're definitely gonna feel fear when you raise your voice. We don't want to wait for that fear to go away just because that's not realistic. So we want to practice acknowledging if I know something's wrong and I'm debating whether or not I should speak up, I'm most definitely going to feel afraid. I remember the first time I spoke about something being an issue and not in writing, because again, I had more practice with writing. That's just how I began to approach advocating for change, was through my writing. But when I spoke for it for the first time, I could hear my voice trembling and quivering, and it sounded like I was going to cry. And I remember thinking, oh my God, they are not going to take me seriously. I sound so afraid and they know that. And that felt really insecure to me. It almost felt like I felt ashamed because ideally in a perfect world, I feel very comfortable speaking up when something is causing people harm. But in reality, I sounded terrified. And again, that's a part of stepping into advocating for change. So just if that feels like you in the moment, just know that that's okay. And I want you to know that when you choose to engage with that and you do that continuously, that fear is going to get a little bit less intense every time. I still very much experience fear when I raise my hand or speak up. I still very much feel the stories of, oh my gosh, this person is going to think I'm difficult or dramatic. I even question within myself, like, am I just causing a problem? Am I being dramatic? Am I being an issue and it's really not that big a problem? And I think that's because, at least for me, I did not grow up in this industry as a performer seeing people speak up when something was wrong. I very much grew up, and I'm going to have an episode on this, that's for sure, with the toxic mindset of the show must go on, which is like totally pervasive in our industry, and we are still working to fight against that. So I've even had to unlearn in myself, and like that's a perfect example of it, because I even question myself, am I being dramatic? Like, oh my gosh, is it not that big of an issue and I'm just causing a problem? But But that is likely not the case. A great thing to reflect on, sure. And if you feel like something's wrong, something is probably wrong, because that gut feeling is there for a reason. So trust that feeling, feel the fear, say thank you for being here, because that means you're going to do something brave. Think about what you're about. And if that mandates that you speak up, for me, it often does. Whether I do that in the moment or afterward or with a group of people or by myself, or if I do that with a shaky voice and a little bit of emotion because I haven't had enough distance between myself and the situation to fully calm myself down, or if I do it afterwards and I craft a really intentional, mindful language to put in front of people addressing the change, just know that all of that is a part of change, and wherever you're at in that process, that day, in that moment, is okay. And may we all practice a little bit more compassion and grace for ourselves, for other people, and recognize in ourselves that we have the courage that it takes to raise our voice and to speak up. And that we celebrate that in other people when we see it, because again, it's scary. And sometimes it means a lot for someone to go, hey, I see you and thank you for doing that. I want to try to say that to people around me when I see them doing that, because those are the people that inspire me and keep me fueled to keep fighting for a better, more inclusive, more humane theatrical industry and world. So, thanks for being here today. You are brave. You are totally capable of speaking and advocating for change. Let's raise our voices. Thank you so much for joining me again today. I really am overwhelmed by the support and the fact that you're taking time to listen to what I have to say about pushing for change in our industry. It would really mean a lot to me if you would follow, rate, subscribe to the podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform, wherever you're listening right now. You can email me directly, and please feel free. Send me emails about whatever you want, people you think I should interview, things that were helpful for you to hear, things that you'd like to hear me talk about or other people to talk about. You can email me at assemblyguidepodcast@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram at assemblyguide. I can't wait to keep talking more about change. Thanks for being here and have a good rest of your day.